Welcome to the very first episode of TikTok Famous Podcast. I'm so excited to be here with my first guest, Michele Garza. We are going to talk about all things TikTok and being a content creator and being a nanny and being an author. So stay with us.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous Podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous Podcast.
Thank you so much for being here. My very first guest. I so appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So I first fell in love with you with your nanny stories. And then I got to learn more and more about you, that you're an author and Ruth Stucks and all of these good things. So your nanny stories are 10 out of 10. Can you tell us a little bit about like when you were nannying, where you were nannying? The one I got called into was I think you guys were on vacation someplace and then you had your own place to stay and go.
Yeah. So I moved to New York City right after high school. I actually had a friend who had gone through an agency, like a nanny agency, and ended up with a family in the Hamptons. And I went to visit, and the woman had a sister and she was pregnant with twins, and they just wanted somebody to go to the British West Indies and have this vacation with them at the end of the year. And I'd never gone anywhere. I was young. I was turning 19, like never done anything. So I moved to New York and worked for that family, and I did some traveling with them. And I loved it. I've always raised kids. I've always been around kids. I was the neighborhood babysitter. And I'd never gone anywhere. So it was really exciting to go to New York. I didn't think that I'd ever go there, but I ended up there. And throughout my time in New York, I've done so many things, but I always had families that I nannied for, and families that you hear a lot of horror stories, and believe me, they're out there. And I've mixed in my own little stories for random families that I've maybe helped or worked for. But for the most part, I worked for very genuine families who took care of me. And that doesn't mean that there wasn't stress or conflict between our relationships, because nothing's perfect, especially as I've lived with families, which you have a whole nother human in your house. And some of these are young families.
I can't even, I mean, my cleaning lady sometimes comes, I'm just like, I don't know where to sit. I feel like I'm in the way in my own house. It's very weird to have someone like in your space, and I appreciate it. It's not that we don't, it's not that it's not appreciated, but it's still like, how do I interact? How do I go like wear a robe downstairs, have a cup of coffee, come home? You always kind of want to be forward facing, or like, I don't know, seem like you have your shit together. And like now you've got this person that's not leaving and you can't have your shit together 24/7.
Oh yeah. I've seen everybody naked at one point or another. I mean, really, I have. It's one of those things. I actually once had this big mirror in my room, and it fell, and I wasn't fully dressed, and my nanny mom had her mother was visiting, and we were getting dressed to go somewhere, and she heard it, and she ran in, and she's in her bra and underwear, and I'm in my bra and underwear, and she's trying to like help me out of it. And I'm like, I literally have seen everybody naked at this point.
Oh my God.
But yeah, very early on TikTok, I joined during the pandemic, like a lot of people. I didn't really have a public profile. I've always been a writer. I had a blog. I thought I don't know. I wasn't in the social world. And I saw a creator telling stories. And at that time, everybody was dancing and lip singing, and there were a lot of stitches and duets, which is different now. And part of that is because of the algorithm and how people make money. Because if you stitch content,
no one wants to do that. Yeah,
you don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
So, I saw a storyteller, and I thought I can do that. And I didn't have an audience. I was quietly, my marriage was about to end, and I wasn't talking about that. And it was the pandemic. We left New York, where I had lived for 20 years. We're in the suburbs of Chicago. I had a toddler. I had a sick dog, a younger dog. I had a lot of chaos in my life. I was injured. And so I just started at night when my daughter would go to bed, telling stories from my couch. And those nanny stories started to pick up. And then I kind of panicked with my first viral story, because my nanny families have been really kind to me, and I didn't want to dox anybody. So I reached out, and I don't think they really understood what was happening. They're like, oh, it's fine, just don't use our names. And then I was like,
who's going to see it? Just a few folks.
I'm like, And then I followed back up, and because they're not on social media really, and
Right.
I was like, I want to be transparent. It's kind of taking off, and they were
Yeah.
like, don't use our names. Like, who cares? Like, whatever. So I was really lucky in that sense. And then, yeah, and then I kind of transitioned because I only have so many nanny stories. And then that's how it kind of transitioned into talking about other things throughout
Yeah.
time.
So I just have this, I don't know, I'm Gen X. So we were kind of like locked out of the house for hours at a time, kind of the way we were raised. And I think that there is a part of so many of us that are creators, not necessarily influencers, meaning we're not trying to sell something necessarily. I'm not trying to influence you to buy something. Just the folks that come on to TikTok, come on to social media to share. And we're sharing because we want to change minds, we want to help, we want to, I
Connect
don't
with
know,
other people.
yeah, just interact, right? And I think that there's a part of us that maybe we weren't listened to, maybe we weren't heard. And so there's this place that we could go on and open up our phones and people have to listen. Like even if they don't have to listen, there's a part of us that it's living out there in infamy that it's held, this content is held, right? And we got to put it out there. Are you one of those people? Because I will literally tell my husband, if you want to know who I am, go watch my TikTok or go watch my social media,
Oh,
because it's
yeah.
easier for me to share here than it is to like share in real life.
I'm
And so
kind of
is
the
there a part of
opposite.
you?
I'm like, don't find me on. I feel like I'm good in person, and when I tell a story, sometimes I'm like pleased with myself, and then I can't watch it again. And I never understood growing up hearing interviews where people would say, "Oh, I don't watch the movies I'm in." I'm like, how? What? And I kind of get it because I will watch one TikTok that I've posted for a while, and then I won't post it again. I think that in this conversation we have to talk about the algorithm because I think, and with everything going on with if they're going to sell the algorithm, if they're going to sell the app, what's going to happen, the algorithm has a way of finding the people that are interested in the content. So
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying. I think that you find other people who have shared experiences. I think that's what's incredible. And also to be transparent, I have the handles on all the other platforms, but I haven't really consistently posted or gotten an audience anywhere else. So I really speak to the TikTok situation because that's what I know.
Yeah.
And I think that the algorithm has brought so many people, and that's why it has been so successful because you're reaching the right audience, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you scroll and you're like, this speaks to me, this speaks to me, this speaks to me. There's something to that, and I think that we were kicked out of the house. We were a lot more creative, and I also think the shared community of the of you see so many social movements now and so many things that we're able to accomplish in a short period of time because we were all linked together and you find like-minded people.
Yeah.
um, and I think that that is what the gem of TikTok really is. And because of that, I mean, it's interesting to me when I started posting my nanny stories, I had so many nannies. I had so many people saying, I want my daughter, niece, cousin, whoever to be a nanny and have those experiences because some of the things that I've talked about are the opportunities that I've gotten because I've worked for these really great families who respected me and valued me and trusted me. So I got a lot of opportunities. And when I talk about that and kind of glamorize it to an extent because people know the nanny diaries more than anything else and these horrible nanny stories people see another light. But it was interesting to me how many nannies and then families who have had nannies that just want to hear my experience because they've hired a nanny. So it was interesting the audience that began to form from my storytelling in general. And then to your point, spilling over, leaving the nanny stories because one, I had told a lot of them, but also I had other things that I wanted to talk about, which is also like how it eventually led to the publishing of my book.
Yeah. And so you're saying when you started, you were going through a divorce.
Yep. Well, it hadn't officially started. We were just in marriage counseling, and it
Yeah.
was kind of evident it wasn't going to work out.
Yeah. And don't you find like sometimes speaking into the abyss, there's something so cathartic about it. Like just even putting your thoughts kind of someplace, almost like a digital diary, if you will, and being heard, being able to get that out of your throat, and express yourself, even if it's not about the thing you're going through, even if
Totally.
it's not like, you know, I had a rough morning, but I'm going to come over here and just like be expressive and maybe act out, like, I mean, there's so many people that are acting out things or just putting on makeup and sharing their get ready with me. I mean, get ready with me, I think, is kind of like the digital diary, right? Like you're not really getting ready. You're really sharing a story while you're getting ready. And I think it's so on point that this grew from that place, in essence, like, okay, I'm leaving this chapter and I'm starting this whole new thing. And I say to people all the time, if you would have met me now and you would have met me at the beginning of TikTok, I feel like I'm two totally different people.
Yeah, it's really wild. I mean, I think also so much has happened in the world, like from being locked down. I mean,
Yeah.
especially in my situation. But there's so much truth to that because it is also escapism in a way. It's like I was a mom and a caretaker for these animals and trying to repair what wasn't being repaired. There were all these things going on. But when I
Yeah.
sat down to tell my stories, I was one in control of that. I had control. And two, and I know that it's not like this for everybody, but in the spirit of what this show is about, if you do find an audience, and it doesn't even have to be, I'm lucky enough that I have a big following that doesn't always equate to views, but it does equate to a lot of support. I have a lot of people that have been supporting me from the very beginning. I have a lot of people that are I say they're like the hardcore locked in, and that audience is much smaller than what
Yeah.
you would see if you went to my profile, but that it is a form of support. And so that escapism, and this is also where it got a little tricky for me because I don't know if you feel this way. And obviously, you're on different platforms and doing different things. But I, at some point, liked nobody knowing who I was. And I
Yeah.
didn't tell people. So I gained a following pretty quickly. And I wasn't telling anybody in my personal life, not my friends. I actually had a video that hit like 100,000 views very quickly in like an hour or something. It was like crazy. And I sent a message to my group chat and I'm like, what would you consider a viral video? And they were like all talking about it and going through their whole thing. And I was trying not to say anything and I didn't. And then I actually got covered somewhere. It was a Inside Edition or something. I don't remember. Something or reposted, something happened and people in my real life started seeing it. And people were like, wait a minute.
Oh
And I
my
think at
God.
that point I had like told my mom because I was approaching like 40,000 followers and my mom, that's the size of Wrigley Stadium, Wrigley Field
Yep.
and
Yep.
the Cubs. And my mom was like, that's like Wrigley Stadium. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, that's crazy. But then sometimes when I'm conscious of who is looking or people will comment, oh, I saw this, or sometimes people in my community will recognize me. That is the introvert moment where I'm like, oh no, I forget that people are actually watching. And I don't know what
yeah.
that is. Like, I'm not like, do you watch my TikTok? Do you watch my TikTok? People want my number. And I'm like, oh, if they're on TikTok, it's going to say, you might know this person, like from your
Right.
contacts. I was
Right.
like, you just email. It's a really unique, weird experience in a lot of ways. And I'm grateful for it. Like, it's not that I would change it, but I don't know. It's like a love, not hate relationship, but I don't know. It has its days, I guess.
Yeah, like, that's such a great segue to, have you had any of those days where you're like, just the wrong comment kicked you in the teeth, or trolls, bots, or you got yourself into a pickle? I got myself into a pickle one time, and it was a rough 2 months because I got myself into a kerfluffle. And it was bad. I mean, I had people coming after me. I had to contact the other creator. I was like, dude, you have to call off the dogs. Like, this is really affecting my mental and physical health. And I put myself there, but it was still like one of those unintentional comments that just go south fast. Have you gotten either to the place where you're like, I'm done putting stuff out there because it's not hitting? Because people don't even realize, like, you could put out the best video of your life and it doesn't go anywhere. And you're like, what? I'm done. This is like, have you gotten yourself there?
Yeah. So a couple of things come to mind right away. And I want to just take a moment to say that this, I think, is also really important when you think about kids that want to create content and shielding them, because I am a grown person with a therapist and I think a pretty good head on my shoulders. And these things really can affect you. And you see the biggest, most stable creators who have gone through this. I mean, if you look at any big creator, they really have. I have those moments sometimes. I've always been an oversharer. I probably have ADHD undiagnosed. I'm a tell it all. People meet me and it's a lot. Okay, this is how I am in person. I'm like, let me tell you everything. I don't hold back very often. But also I think
they say that's because we weren't listened to, by the way.
I think, okay, my mom's probably going to watch this, but yes, I do think that that has something to do with it. And I also speak quickly. And I think one, it's because of how fast my brain goes. And also then people can't cut me off. I'm like, let me just finish what I have to say because I have all these thoughts. I've had a couple of things. And, you know, there was one really scary situation where it was one of those days. And so some guy was trolling. I don't even think it was my video. I don't remember. And I have a primarily female audience. I do have some male followers. And there are times where I've put out contents and guys have said something and then it goes, then more men come in and sometimes there's been a thing. And this might've been that situation, but it was somebody. And I literally said like, cool profile picture with your beer. He was like holding up his beer. And I was just, it was a cheap shot. It was just an offhand remark. And there was other stuff in my life. I was telling and I don't know why I never engaged like that. Right.
Yeah.
He, sent me a bunch of crazy messages. He basically telling me to unalive myself. He said that he knew where I lived. He was going to come find me. He started a website that was my name is a blank.com. I had to report him. I panicked. And at that point, my friends did like know what was going on. And they were like, that was really dumb. You have to be careful. And it was something fairly simple, like cool profile picture, like your beer or whatever. It just set him off. So that was like a very eye-opening experience for me. Luckily, I blocked him. It got shut down. Like I reported him. So that in itself is like one of those moments.
Yeah.
But I did
have to go to the police.
It didn't get to that point. Everything went away. And I did some research and I found some stuff. He wasn't local to me. Like I was able to kind of do enough to think that he was just scaring me. But it was very scary. I mean, the whole thing was wrapped up within like maybe 48 hours, 24 hours, but thought and the lingering of it. Right.
Yeah.
But separately, I had a situation, and looking back, I can understand the other creators' point of view, but so I have two channels on TikTok. So I have my primary one, which is the Garza, where I tell all the stories, but then I was going to do this whole best loved nanny podcast because that's what I call myself, the best loved nanny. And I was working on some content, which I hope to bring back. So I started a separate TikTok channel that's called the best loved nanny, which has like 30,000 followers, or did at one point. I don't use it as often. In doing that, I had a lot of nannies following me and I was getting tagged in this video of this young nanny. The mom was recording. The young nanny was running, and she's a cute young nanny, jumping into the arms of her nanny dad. And they were trying to do like the Dirty Dancing lift.
Yeah.
She's laughing and the mom is laughing. They're all having a great time about it. And somebody tagged me and said, what are your thoughts on this? Now, the initial reaction from the nanny community is that there are a lot of assumptions that nannies and dads and having this young hot nanny in your house, and we have to deal with that over and over and over. And most nannies are super professional. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I've told stories of things that I've seen that are inappropriate, but that was never my case. And it upsets nannies because it's a reputation, it's a stereotype that we have to constantly fight and talk about. We're tired of people saying, you're a nanny, oh, you hook up with the dad. And so that was kind of where I was going to go with it. I was heading to the beach. I had a whole day planned and I was like, oh, let me get a video done real quick. And I posted it and I said, what do you think of this? Like, look at this. And I stitched it. And the video was already going viral. But I definitely threw gas on that fire and it blew up. I posted it actually, and I went into a therapy session, the first post. And I came out and it had like almost 1 million views in like an hour. It was crazy. I looked at I was like, what is happening? This is insane. And just on my phone. So from that, I think it was the next morning, out of the pressure of what was happening, somebody had done like a what is like a meme of it, like they had recreated it,
Yeah.
and people were talking about that, and I kind of got hopped up in this moment, and the mom still had the video up. She was starting to get heat. People were like, this is like a throuple. It really started to spiral. But the original content creator had it up. So in my mind, if you have it up, she was liking the comments. She was kind of eating up the attention. Okay.
Yeah.
So I posted something about the nanny, and here's her handle, and here's the thing, and have at it. And I meant the words "have at it" were really about like go
have at it.
not
Go
like take
after her. Yep.
out. And she saw it, and she was so mad about it. And I want to say too, I wasn't monetizing this platform. I wasn't getting paid for this at the time. I didn't make money off of, I don't make money off of that platform. She was so upset about it. The mom ended up finding me, I think, on Instagram, and admitted, or maybe no, somebody else found me on Instagram and was like, "You're ruining this girl's life." But the mom admitted that it was inappropriate. I'm like, if we're going to talk about workplace behavior, and I never commented on if I thought they were hooking up. I never commented if I thought it was a throuple. I never commented on that. My focus was more on how this is inappropriate workplace behavior as a nanny. And also, and in all fairness, she was a nanny, but she was a daycare worker that was poached during the pandemic. A lot of families did this. Daycares were shutting down. People didn't have help at home. And so a lot of people were trying to find any child care giver. And so you're finding people that are good with kids that maybe you can trust and be in your home, but maybe not have the aesthetics of the workplace professional. And eventually I turned the comments off, which killed the video. I went live once and I get like 75,000 people it was insane. I was like, what is happening right now?
That's a
And
lot. For people that are listening and don't know anything about TikTok, that's a ton
it was
of
insane.
life.
It was insane. And it was one of those where like you can't read the comments, and I was just sitting there, and it was crazy. But yeah, those and that, it made it to the news, and I actually thought they had the funniest video, because they have a video where they're like if they're in New Jersey, and you're looking at the news on the TV, and then it flips, and it's the mom in the front and the dad and the nanny, and they're all just staring at the TV. I thought it was hysterical. I thought it was so funny. But that girl hates me. She thought that I like tried to ruin her, and I apologize. I'm like, don't go after her. Like, that wasn't my intention, but yeah, I don't know. I know that's I have all long-winded answers, but I relived that a little bit. It was a little intense. And other than that, like, sometimes you'll get comments. I get comments about things, and it's like anything else. If anything I've learned here, people are going to love you. People are going to hate you. You got to focus on what you're going to focus on. But I will say I am for the most part, I try to be very down the middle. And when I'm posting, it is always on my mind. Who am I going to upset? And what is the backlash going to be? Because I hate confrontation. I'm like, please don't come after me.
Yeah. And there's so many people on here that don't care about it. Like, they're just perfectly happy being hated. They're perfectly happy having people coming after them, like, verbally. I am not built for that. I just literally am not. So kudos to anybody that can post like all that political stuff all the time. Like, I make sure that my political views are known, and they're like in blurbs, because, God forbid I have a huge platform and not use it at least to say something, right? So there's that part. And it's hard because there's so many people who are like, you have a platform, you have to use it. Like, you can't just benefit off it without taking a stand on a lot of these things. And I'm like, there's a part of me too, and you're probably a great person to ask this. I'm not I am not the person to talk about a lot of this stuff. Like, I can tell you, like, this is who I voted for and why, and this is the extent of information I have on this topic, and this is how I feel about this. But there's also a part of it, just because I have a telephone and a platform of people that watch me because I told them to own a good pair of jeans and a pair of slingbacks and, talk to dead people. That doesn't mean that I am really the person to listen to about politics or anything for that matter when it comes to these very heavy layered topics. Where have you fallen? Because you're kind of like nannies and books and Ruth Ducks, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And so, like, now you're supposed to talk about Pakistan because of the fact that you have a platform of 300,000 plus people.
I felt that too. I think especially, and this goes into more of like the psychology of like my upbringing. I do not share the same political views as both of my parents. My father just recently passed away, but we did not share the same political views in a lot of my family. So I think also the high confrontation is very difficult for me. I also buckle. I can't articulate. To your point, I can tell you who I voted for. I can talk about current events. I do that regularly with friends and family. But I find that what I have done is I have sponsored some families like with Gaza, right? That was one of the things. I was putting out links. I was putting stuff in my bio, reposting. I repost a lot of stuff. I
Same,
repost, share. And that's kind of my contribution because
same.
also, and I know that I have people on far both sides following me. And I think too, in my mind, part of my goal is and not to say that politics aren't driving us apart because they are, but I want to believe that for the most part, we are a lot more alike than unalike. And if I can be true to who I am and somebody who doesn't agree with my politics engages in my content or feels empathy or sympathy for me or cares about me, I also feel like that's breaking down a little bit of a
I
barrier and
agree.
that there might be a time and place to listen, but I mean, for the most part, we have to post. People, I appreciate people who post. We have to we can't stay silent on topics, but at the same time, there's a time and place for it. I'm not going to make as big of an impact, I think, on my community with my exact content, but I do reshare. I find other ways in activism
Same.
versus turning on a video and talking about it. And I have a little bit. And I think that a lot of people that feel that way want extremely big. I'm not really an influencer. Okay. I have a lot of influence over like my book and my storytelling and my videos go viral, but I don't know that I'm actually influencing anyone. And I think that there are creators that are really big influencers that really do make an impact that are in a different position. I don't know. And maybe I'm naive or taking the easy way out, but I do feel that way. I feel like me saying something might be very different than a creator with millions of followers that have an actual influence on people.
Yeah, I
If that
think our being articulate about the topic is super important, and I also think that sometimes it's like if you went to turn on the, as we would call them, the Saturday morning cartoons, and there's politics on there, like, some people just need to check out of those things, and I think sometimes your page and pages like yours, which are light and people are going there for a reprieve, to escape the heaviness of the world. I was just talking to my sister before coming on here about like what we ingest 24/7 comes out our mouths to our children and to the world around us, and we cannot just inundate ourselves 24/7 with this poison, if you will. I mean, Aaron Parnas was just on the other day and he's like, I'm freaked out by how much I've aged in since I got on TikTok. And it's like, yeah,
you
like
can
this
see
stuff,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we see it and it physically affects us, and I think that there has to be pages, there has to be creators that everyone kind of goes, no, you're not supposed to. Like, you don't have to. Like, it's important that you don't. Just keep talking about, your life. And recently, like you mentioned, your dad had passed away and you went back to Ohio and were going through, was it the family house, the family farm? Like, what were you going through? Because you had some like doozies that you were finding.
Yeah. So my mom lives in Ohio. So I briefly stayed in Ohio for a couple of months before the New York thing happened. And so all of my belongings I didn't grow up in Ohio, but my mom moved right after when I was graduating high school. And so our house is there. And my mom is a pole barn, which is basically like an outdoor structure. It's not a full barn. It's got a roof. And all of my stuff has been sealed in these tubs and I saved everything. And so I decided, my dad recently passed away. And most of the things that I own, that I have, like my physical possessions, are things that I've accumulated since going to New York. So I have some things from my dad, but not like all the stuff. My dad was a stuff. He loved things remembered. I have so many jewelry boxes and things from him. And I wanted to go find his handwriting. I wanted to find his cards. I wanted to find, and it was overdue that I needed to go check out stuff anyway. So yes, I went, and my brother helped me get everything out of the rafters. And I had like, I think 16 bins, maybe, like storage bins. And that's not all of them. Like my cheerleading stuff I made, my mom would not put the fighting about my worldly treasures being outside, even though they're sealed up. So I do also have stuff inside the actual house, like in the attic. But yeah, and it's funny because my goal that day was to find stuff for my dad. We were in the middle of the tornadoes that were just like, there was a really bad storm and raining. So I didn't have time to create all the content around the gems, and I didn't realize how popular that would be. But yeah, I was an Elvis fan.
I saw that you had like the plastic dancing guy even.
And somebody commented about a clock, and literally, like, it makes me so upset because I'm like, where is the clock? I had a clock where his legs would swing. And here's the deal. I watched Full House. I think it was like an Uncle Jesse, Elvis thing. And I do love Elvis. I really do. But I also think it was also this little nugget of attention, and it became my thing. And I really played it up. When I was in high school, I was a cheerleader, and we were playing our rival. It wasn't homecoming, but it was crosstown, whatever it was. It was a really big game. And Coca-Cola was there. They were sponsoring the game, and they were doing a halftime competition as an Elvis impersonating contest. It was basically dancing to Jailhouse Rock. And the winner was going to get a year's supply of Coca-Cola. And they came to the cheerleaders to say, will you go tell the crowds? Like, we need you to go spread the word. And everyone turned and pointed at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I already had a routine to Jailhouse Rock. Okay. So I went out on the field, and I remember people didn't know the lyrics, and I was like telling them, and the coaches were there and the mascots. And I danced my little heart out, and I won a year's supply of Coca-Cola. Which I donated to all the schools, like end of the year social, like all their banquets and stuff. But yeah, it's a love that runs deep. I had a whole box that I didn't post of like, this is so embarrassing. I saved every year. I would get like the chocolates, like the Valentine's Day heart 10s with Elvis's face, and then I saved them. I have they didn't even make the video. It's embarrassing, honestly, but it's fun. And again, so many people were like, I had that clock, or that connection. I forgot about that. And it really got like going back to like the community, the people who saw the things in it, brought back the memories, brought back the feelings. People were telling their stories. And again, like for what I'm trying to create on the platform is to bring those thoughts and feelings all together between people. So I love when stuff like that, when people actually get a chance to see it, and it gets a little bit of traction because of the community, you know?
I just posted a video recently, and it's literally my face with writing on it and music. And it was like to all the kids who had to give that last dose of morphine, or the ones that didn't make it before the person passed. And I could literally write a book just with the comments. Comments.
Yeah, I was reading through a lot of those comments because I didn't make it to my dad in time.
Yeah.
And I've had to sit with, he was on life support. So I've had to sit with how I feel about it. And I maybe selfishly have sat in a place where I think everything happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And when I was in Ohio, I was actually very overwhelmed. We don't stay with my mom. We actually stay at my friend's farm, and they are feral farm kids, and they are homeschooled. They homestead. Everything happens on that farm, and it's crazy, and it's a lot. So I was like, I need to go have a few minutes to myself. And plus I was processing all these big feelings with my dad and going through all my stuff. And I went into a local bar, and I sat down, and I ordered some food. I was hangry. I was like, I'm hangry. I just got in a big fight with my brother. And I was sitting there, and there was this couple at the end. And then this other guy walked up, and I guess they just know each other from being regulars or locally there. And we struck up a conversation. One thing led to another. The woman had lost her dad in a very similar way. Not too recently, a couple of years ago. And her experience is very similar, but she was there. And they were asking her to make decisions, and they were asking her, and she had to sit there and endure all of that. And she was talking about how her experience, that while she was glad she was there in some ways, my dad was sedated. My dad was pretty out for days, and I was letting him rest, and then he took a turn. And we had bad weather. I mean, there were a lot of other, my kid was sick, and I thought I thought it was a norovirus. I can't take that to the hospital. So it was a very complicated situation. We had this brutal snow and ice storm, and I was going to get on the road first thing in the morning. But she had talked about how she was there and the trauma she has from being there. By the time I got there, he had just passed. They had everything out of the room. He was just there peacefully.
Yeah.
And he was warm. And I got in I mean, it was kind of this moment. I literally just, my dad was a big guy. I just threw his leg over and literally climbed into the bed and just hugged him because he was still warm, and said all the things. And it's still pretty fresh. Said all the things. And I have to be at peace with that. But hearing other people's stories, again, it's like, everybody has their own. Yes, I was there for him, but my trauma, the things that my memories and the things that I saw are so different than what other people saw. It's really, I love that you created that post, and I love that people commented, and that's the whole thing about TikTok, the comment section, right? It's like,
comment section is life.
I'm like, comment section, like, don't just watch the video, look at these, screenshot the comments,
Yep.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's what I found, because I do read a lot. I mean, there's tens of thousands of comments on that video, and I think it's a 7-second video.
Yeah.
Maybe 10-second video. All the people saying, I thought I was the only one. And to live, some of these people were saying for decades, thinking that they're the only one that had to go through this trauma. And I, coming on this platform, I thought I was the only one that was locked out of my house. I thought I was the only one that my mom hated me so much that she would be like, you can come in for lunch, or here's a sandwich, go eat it on the picnic table in the backyard, or, come in when like whatever the thing is, like just the Gen X stories are so similar. And I had no idea for 50 years. 50 years, I thought that my mom just hated me. And here it was just boomers raising kids. Like, it was just the way it was in Gen X time.
Yeah. I have a friend that I grew up with, and it's now that we're older, and I'm back from New York because she's still here in the Midwest area. We've had some late night conversations about our childhood and how we perceived whose house and what, and things about her relationship with her parents that I would never have guessed. And I'm not going to leave those details out because I don't, but some of the details, especially like with her mom, that I viewed her mom so differently, and as like a grown up, not that she couldn't be trusted, but to hear what was happening behind closed doors, even then you're so little. And now, and this is my, I think with social media, and as much as I don't think that kids, especially young kids, should be on social media, understanding the shared experience of things, especially as kids that get into high school and kids who do have maybe some kind of, with some kind of monitoring of it, that, especially in our day and age, parents didn't get a divorce. I didn't want to talk about that my parents didn't live together because I didn't know people. I remember the first kid that I knew also had parents that no longer lived together. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, because that was so mortifying for me. But I think when we were growing up, there was a lot of shame and stigma around a lot of things that were happening as well. And so we weren't quick to go to school and tell people. I mean, I know that happens today too. But now, again, with the social media, I feel like the shared experience, people can really see that they're not alone. And I think that's like probably the biggest thing about it, is that like how many times you see a video and they're like, this is not an original experience. Like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one, or I've never had an original thought in my life. It's like the idea of The Secret, right? Where the thoughts are out there and they're going for everybody, and it's whoever picks it up. I had a video I didn't create, and it was so niche. And then one of my favorite creators made a video on it like a couple of days later. And I was like, I was literally about to make that exact video. And I really believe that. I don't know. I know I'm getting a little off.
Well, I guess Prince was, I've talked about this on my other podcast, but I guess Prince was interviewed one time, and he was talking about how if he gets a song in his head, he would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to record it. And he would call everybody and be like, get in the studio. And when he was being interviewed, they were like, well, why do you do that? And he said, because I know that Michael Jackson is getting the exact same song. And it's whoever creates it first. Like it's literally, it's out in the stratosphere, and whoever grabs it first has it. And I believe that that is what happens with so many people. It's, are you willing to do it? Are you willing to write the book? Are you willing to make the speech or make the video? And so those that will get it, those that will do it, get the voice. Those that will do it, get the book deal, or whatever. And so I think it's so important that, and you hear the most talented and the most successful people say, put a book next to your bed, put a journal next to your bed. And when it happens, write it down. Like, even if it's scribble with your eyes shut,
Yeah.
Write the thing down, because it's just transmuted energy into the collective, and whoever grabs it wins, so to speak, gets the song or the thing. So, going and talking about your book, because I don't want to not bring that up this morning. So you have this book called Ruth's Ducks. So tell everyone about it, because I think it's the most beautiful story, and you have your own website and everything. So please.
Yeah. So Ruth's Ducks, which is behind me up here, is a true story. When I was a little girl, I received these wax ducks as a Christmas gift in a gift bag exchange at my church. And we didn't grow up with a lot of money, but I didn't know that. And I grew up in a community with kids, again, that I didn't really realize were going through a lot of the same things as my family. Anyway, one thing leads to another, and I end up with a pair of wax ducks. I exchanged gifts with this little girl, Ruth, who was homeschooled and kept to herself. They were in a ball of newspaper. And I was very disappointed about it. And so I had a bad attitude, got not in front of her. But when my mom picked me up, I'm like, this isn't a new toy. I brought a Lisa Frank art kit. I wanted my art kit. I was like, what is this? And so I threw the ducks away. My mom called me downstairs and said she was disappointed in my behavior, and that even though we didn't have much, there were people who had even less than us, and that Ruth's Ducks were going to be our reminder to be thankful for what we have, to remember people who have less than us. She explained that Ruth came from a big family with a bunch of siblings, and maybe they didn't have enough money for every kid to buy a new gift. And so she hung them on our Christmas tree as an ornament and a reminder. And I thought that was really dumb, because I was 8 and I had a lot of expectation around it was disappointing for me. They were a disappointment.
You're a kid. Yep.
Yeah. And so my mom would take them out every year and say, do you want to hang Ruth's Ducks on the Christmas tree? And every year I was like, no, throw them out, whatever. And then there was the year that we just really struggled financially. But my mom worked all the time. She was gone all the time. We talk about being locked out when we latchkey kids. I was going home to an empty house with my snacks on the table, after school snacks, My mom's phone number, only call me at work if it's an emergency, because this was before cell phones and texting. And you'd call and be like, I talked to my mom, and then be like, what do you need? And so there was a year that was just really hard. And I really had that self-reflection that my mom was so upset about it. And I was a little bit older, but at that point I wanted family time. I wanted time with my mom. I thought, you're working all these hours and trying to make ends meet. There's not money for Christmas gifts. Anyway, that was the first time I hung Ruth's Ducks on our Christmas tree. It was very symbolic in our family. And my mom took the ducks. They didn't always live in this box, but they've really been through it. I mean, they're falling apart. So now they're in here to protect themselves. But my mom hung them in her kitchen, and they would just sit in her kitchen all year long. And then we'd move them to the Christmas tree. We'd talk about Ruth and her family. We'd talk about what we were thankful for. And it was our little thing. Anyway, so I get to college, and I was actually in a remedial writing class. I have horrible spelling and grammar. And I was in this remedial writing class, and I was given a prompt to write about a time a material possession had taught me a lesson. I just thought of the ducks, and I scribbled this little thing down. And I was dating somebody at the time who came home and read it. And he grew up with only child, everything you can imagine, country club lifestyle. And he was so moved by it, cried. He was like, this is a story. You're a writer. I was studying education at the time. I was going to be a kindergarten teacher. And he actually bought me writing classes at a local New York City, writing thing. It wasn't in school. It was a workshop. And I met some writers and some authors, and people were like, you have a voice, you should stick with it. So one thing led to another. I changed my major. I'm in a higher level of writing, and we get an assignment where we're elongating our writing. We're burrowing in, and she wants us to take something short and turn it into a full 10-page essay. like a personal narrative. And I was like, I'm going to grab the story, because I had at that point been sharing this 1-page thing with people, and I wrote it, and then I got workshopped. So I had to send it to everybody. We all sit around in my class. This is in my college class. And everybody has to say something, and people were really moved by it. And that was really the first time that it really resonated with me, how I could put my words on paper and reach people. And I wasn't even sure how much I could do that. So a lot of people loved it and said, you should do something with it. It's not a traditional children's book, though. It's long. It's 10 pages. At one point, one of my nanny families was like, you need to get an op-ed in the New York Times. And I'm like, I don't have the connections that you have. I can't just call people. I'm like, do you want to help me? So I've always just kind of kept it. Okay. So the TikTok thing, right? I'm telling all my stories. I'm doing all my stuff. So I went live one night, and I have this book it was from that class where we had to keep writing every day. And I turned mine into a journal, all these pieces of writing that I put together. And so I was reading it. And again, my marriage is dissolving. I had been a stay-at-home mom. I had been through the pandemic. All my connections are back in New York. I worked in marketing in New York. I worked in big publishing. I worked for one of the biggest fashion magazines in the world. Like, I have a lot of experience, a lot of connections in New York. And traditional publishing is hard, man, especially if you don't have a traditional story. Ruth's Ducks is not a traditional children's story. Anyhow, so all that happens, and then somebody says, you should do like a crowdfunding, like Kickstarter, and we'll all purchase it, and then you can have the money to do it. And I was like, light bulb moment. So I created a Kickstarter, and I was so nervous, and I got a little bit of money very early from all my friends, family, those diehard followers, right? People who were like, I will get into this. But my goal was like $25,000. And I think I had like 6 or 7. And I was like, okay. And you only have so much time, and then it goes away. If you don't hit your goal by a certain day, they give everybody their money back.
Wow.
So I was panicking. And I was on the phone with somebody from New York, and she said, have you just told the story? Have you just like turned on your camera and told the story? And I was like, no, it's on my list. You know, again, this creating, I'll get there. I'll do it. She said, just go do it. Now, my cousin was here, and I hate creating in front of people. My cousin's my favorite person. I kicked her out into my backyard. I said, can you go out back? And I got to shut the door. Like, I need a minute. And I recorded this video just telling it. Like, and if you go look at it, I'm like, I'm just like talking at the camera. I'm very like pan. And I posted it, and it immediately went viral. And all of a sudden I'm getting notifications, another supporter. And I'm looking at my cousin, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was funded. The $25,000 was covered within a couple of hours.
Wow.
This is before TikTok Shop. This was like back, right? And I said to my cousin, I couldn't stop looking at everything. I was like, this is crazy. It's happening. Oh my gosh, it's happening. And I said to my cousin, do you think that like when big musicians like Taylor Swift or Beyonce, do you think when they like post their music, they like wait for the numbers? Should I just be like going about my life? Should I be like reading a book right now, or like like doing community service, or should I be freaking out right now because I was just pacing around? She's like, no, I think you're having the appropriate reaction. So anyway, I raised almost $40,000, a little over $40,000.
Wow.
Me to do. There's an original version, which I actually have. I'll tell you. How are we on time? Do we have a few minutes?
Yeah.
In the original version, I'll tell you a little ditty. There is an illustration. So I have this amazing illustrator, Biva Wen, who I literally went on Instagram and like looked up children's Christmas and found her and was like, will you work with me?
That's how it's done.
Original version of the book, it has Lisa Frank, because I talk about wanting that Lisa Frank art kit. And then people were like, do you know that Lisa Frank will have your head? And then everybody scared me. And everybody was like, I would get a lawyer if Lisa Frank finds out. So now we've switched it. She never came after me. I talk about that, but I had people that were like, I worked for Lisa Frank. You need to get your butt like. So then we switched to the illustration. So that was like the first major change. But I did like 2,000 books with the Kickstarter. And people paid more if there's names in the back of the book. People got private readings. Like there were other things. And so that did really well. But the ornament. So I replicated.
Yeah, you got the ornament.
So when you get the story, you also get this replica ornament, which I want to get back in wax. And that's like a whole podcast on its own. But I'm working on that. I found the original people, and they are not responding to me. And I'm like, we have a whole opportunity here, my friend.
Right.
But anyway, so then last year, the thing is, it is very long. I say it's for kids 8 and older. It's a family read. It's a 10-minute My kid sometimes takes it off the shelf and I'm like, not tonight. We're going to bed. Like, we don't have enough time. Okay. I'm like, we're
That's
not.
so funny. You won't even read your own book to your own kids?
Oh, it's long. So anyway, last year I repackaged it into this like much shorter. It's the same illustrations. It's the same story. It's just in
So
a simpler
pretty.
version. And now it has this cute little pocket in the front that holds the ornament on the inside. So
Aw.
that's been really excited. I actually want to animate it. I want to turn it into like a little animated series. I have somebody looking at it about turning it into a play. That there's no religion in it. I mean, it mentions Christmas. The first one mentions that we went to church. There aren't any religious teachings in it at all. But it is a
Does
little
Ruth
Christmas.
know? Does Ruth know?
The craziest thing. Ruth, as far as I know, has not been connected. So the story here is that it was at a church. She was homeschooled, and the church no longer exists. The program exists, and I've reached out to corporate. I'm actually very close to the corporate office, and they do not hold records. The only records from the program would have been held through the church, which is completely gone. I grew up in Northwest Indiana. I'm a Hammond homie. I actually went to the same school that A Christmas Story takes place at, Warren G. Harding Elementary School in Hammond, Indiana, where Flick gets his tongue stuck to the flagpole. That's literally where I was going when I got the ducks. And that video went viral. The first video went viral in all the Facebook groups. Crazy. And people have been looking for her. I've had people in high school pull out yearbooks to see if maybe she ended up going to high school in a public school. And she has not come up. Now, does she know? And I can't imagine you wouldn't want to be like, hi, here I am. So I think maybe it's a matter of time that we find her. But as of right now, she has not come forward. So we'll
That's
wait.
so crazy.
I know it is. And I hope I get a lot of Ruths every time I'm filling out another Ruth. People love it. It's funny what the algorithm does and like who it finds and like the whole thing's interesting. But yeah, I could not have done this. This has been incredible. I've thought about, I'm pitching it to some agents right now, but the self-published thing, the whole TikTok thing, you have a platform, anything is possible. I mean, even with a smaller platform, anything is possible. And this did really change my life because now I'm a self-published author and I'm working on some other children's book. I'm working on a very sensationalized, it's fiction, which I rarely write fiction, but it's drawn from real life experiences. It's a nanny story. It's like a beach read for adults that I don't want to go into too much about it. Cause again, my idea, I'm like, don't steal my idea. But it's like a page turner nanny beach read that I'm working on as well. So
you have to come back and share that when that gets.
Yeah, I'd love to. I got to write it first, but yeah, I would love to.
Well, hurry up and write it. Cause if not, there's some other nanny out there that's going to write it because
I know that's why I'm not like, it's pretty good. This is a story that hasn't been told before. It's not like a normal, that's all I'm going to say. It's exciting. This is giving me motivation.
Yes, you have to. Like, this is like the thing. Like, this is what we do. And, a lot of people can say what they want about social media, but it does change lives. It changes lives. It saves lives.
Yeah.
It monetizes people's lives. And health, wealth, mental health. I mean, it's amazing what social media can do. And I have been following you since the first video I saw of you doing the nanny stuff because I was like, oh, I need to know all of this. And, and then you just fall in love with the person that you're watching and they evolve and their life evolves and you just keep getting to know them. Like when I turned on the camera today, the first thing I said, I'm like, it's so weird to talk to someone that I've been watching on a screen for years now. Like I've been watching you for years. That's so crazy, but it's so true. And then you talk to the person and then it's just like, oh, they're just a normal person like me. How cool is that? So
totally. And I feel the same way because I hadn't seen your maybe like videos, but I hadn't been following you for a long time. And then I started seeing it's like the algorithm, and then one day I was like, wait, am I not? I thought I was following her. Like I was getting enough of your content that it was one of those, I'm not following her. And then when I clicked, it said that you were already following me. And it was one of those moments where, again, it's like, so silly because we're just two gals, right? Like doing our thing in life. But when you resonate with somebody, it's like, oh, you like me too. Oh, we like each other. So I was really excited when I was just really excited to be included in this. And I think your topic here is really great. And as you go forward with the season, I think It's interesting for people who already have a platform because, again, things are going to, people are going to be like, yep, right.
Yeah.
There's a whole content creator world where people share. I'm so lucky. I've met so many creators, another authors that will help me. I've used another author's publisher. We compare when the TikTok shop started, like how, what are you doing here? That shared knowledge. There's room for everybody on the platform, right? There's room for everybody. But I also think for people, to your point, that haven't put the videos out, who aren't doing what they want to do, some encouragement to hear other people who have been successful. And I was saying this the other day. I don't know. Do you know, Dr. What is his name? William, the guy who does There's an Axolotl on the Pink Stairs.
I don't think so.
It's so funny. And his content is just him and his wife singing these, and not just any songs. They're very, very clever. But it's like he's got this hippo, Drip the Hippo, and he's rapping. And I'm like, this is what you do. And people love it. Mike, I told it to my cousin because my cousin's like so creative and a little quirky. And she's like, what? I could just be like playing with little dolls and writing stories. And I'm like, yes. Because there's just something to it. Like, you just got to put yourself out there. There's something for everyone. I promise.
There's an ass for every seat.
Put the positivity out there. Yes.
So fun. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sorry for the loss of your dad. I know that's fresh. And, I know you shared in the comment section too. And, I circled back. And so, but thank you for sharing your life on social media. I know that you're making a difference in a lot of authors' lives, whether they realize it or whether you realize it or not. When we share, we inspire, whether we realize it or not. I get comments and messages from people all the time that are like, hey, you inspired me on this, or hey, you changed my life on that. Like, people don't realize how much their very presence of showing up vulnerably and authentically. So thank you, Michele, for showing up. Thank you for writing your book. It's a very important book. And that can be found where?
So my website is ruthsducks.com. So Ruth is the little girl. So ruthsducks.com.
Okay, so go out and get her book. It's a very important message. It's a very important book, especially in this day and age. So I will see everybody here next week with a very cool guest. Beauty Mark is going to be on next week. Michele Garza, thank you so much. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks, Michele.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous Podcast with Meredith Willits. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time, let's get famous.